Today's show is brought to you by BrowTog.com. BRAUTAG, the new BrowTog Premium Brewing System, is a high-quality herm system developed by yours truly to take your brewing to the next level. And by yours truly, I mean Todd and James. The BrowTog consists of 3 premium stainless steel 20-gallon kettles, perfect for brewing 15-gallon batches, and each comes equipped with durable ball valves and easy-to-use stainless steel quick connects. The BrowTog controller is an innovative, no-nonsense controller developed to make your brew day better. It's easy to understand, which makes it easier for you to fully control the brewing process. Dial in your temperatures with ease and control the entire process at the flick of a switch or the push of a button. The BrowTog also comes with 2 premium centrifugal pumps and all the necessary cables conveniently labeled just for you. Go to browtog.com and learn more about our special introductory offer, which includes $500 off MSRP, free shipping, and a ton of free add-ons, such as a 15-gallon recipe kit of your choice, 3 packs of liquid Imperial Yeast, a premium refractometer, pH meter and testing kit, a 1-year membership to Brewer's Friend Premium, SandStep sanitizer, Brew Clean, and more. Head over to browtog.com to find a list of our retail partners and let us help make your brew day better.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
An interview with Scott Mast from Hang'em High Hops and Chris Vogel from Great Lakes Hops. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 243. Hello and welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing. Today, I'm joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com, right down there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Resident Chief Kegwasher of KegConnection.com, Mr. Todd Burns. And on my sides here, this is like the Brady Bunch, what I see. I don't know what view you guys all have, but I'm in the middle of this Brady Bunch thing. I really like it. We got Scott Mast. Scott Mast and Chris Vogel. I have the official things about y'all. Scott Mast is a hop farmer in Michigan with 8 years in the business and the owner of Hang'em High Hops, which sells Great Lakes varieties to professionals and homebrewers, while Chris Vogel is an employee for Great Lakes Hops, focused on introducing Great Lakes proprietary hops to both hop growers and to craft breweries. Gentlemen, thank y'all for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for sticking around through that 24-minute commercial that I play at the beginning. I apologize. I told y'all before we started, we do this like it's live and everything. I forgot to tell you that I recorded a half-hour commercial. So thank you for sticking around and not hanging up on us. First off, how are y'all doing? What's the summer weather like in Michigan? You know, the important questions.
Yeah. The summer weather in Michigan has actually been turned all over different directions. We have heat when we usually have cold, and cold when we have heat. And we just went through the wettest July and beginning of August that we've had in over 20 years.
Wow.
So, we're dealing with a very muggy, hot, humid. Plants love it. Farmers hate it because we're dealing with controlling mildew and other products in the hops. And right now we've been successful, so we're very blessed. But it's a hot, sticky one up here in Michigan this year. Pretty rare for us.
Well, we were happy to send our heat to you because it's been an abnormally cool summer in Texas for a change. So hope you enjoy it, right?
Yeah. We're not built for this weather here in Michigan.
It hadn't even, I don't even know if it may have broke 100
one day,
one or
I think
2
it
days.
did yesterday. My truck showed 102 when I drove home.
I remember years where we've gone 2 months where it was over 100 every day. So it's strange. I would imagine we're not very good at growing hops here. We don't have the right weather. It doesn't stop us from trying, but we've had a lot of dismal failures, right, James?
Yeah, I did 6 vines, and I was amazed at how fast they grew. And then when the heat hit, they completely stopped, and they were dead in a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very hard to do.
So we're really happy to have you on. As you know, we did an experiment where we brewed with all 7 of these hops, and when we did that, we used the same recipe. And I believe we did use Magnum as a bittering hop on each one, just so we kind of had some consistency with the bittering, and then had your hop as the flavor hop and the aroma hop. And we have a whole nother video on that. If anybody wants to go to Homebrew Happy Hour, you can see that. But we were very, very happy with the results, and got a lot of great beers out of it. Another thing is that we have had those beer. I got a lot of beer out of it because we brewed 15-gallon batches. So at my house, I've had at least 5 gallons of this now for over a month of each one. And each night I go try one, or sometimes I get some sample glasses and try different ones. And I feel like I've even since we did the I don't know if what would you call that? It's an episode, Josh, or a special?
Yeah, a special. Yeah, it was an episode, whatever.
Even since we did that, I'm detecting different flavors now, and definitely have favorites that I seem to go back to over and over again. So I'm anxious to really hear your views to start out with, if you don't mind, on the 7 hops, and kind of where you're seeing those being used at this point.
Sure. Yeah, not an issue. And actually, Chris, why don't you take us to where these hops came from or how they were produced, and I'll take you through the hops. And now we have a very good process to understand where these hops are going, where they're used. So, yeah, I'd love to go through that. And I'm excited to hear you say that you're seeing something different the longer they stay in the keg.
Yes.
Because some of them run hot, and some of our commercial breweries, they fluctuate that time in the whether it's kegged off or whether it's still in the bright, they hold off on kegging it or tapping it to let that thing cool down. And there's certain hops that do that specifically. So, Chris, why don't you take it away on why we have brand new hops here in Texas?
Well, it really stems back to kind of the change of the tide in the hop industry way back in 2010. There was a big transition where we were seeing new hops coming into the market, like Citra, Mosaic, El Dorado, and those are all hops that are proprietary hops, but they're exclusive to the farmers that are associated to the Pacific Northwest. So at Great Lakes Hops, we were selling commodity hops, meaning we were selling Cascade, Chinook, Centennial, hops from around the world, also Alpha Roma, Super Alpha, Hallertau MF, hops that everybody knows, but unfortunately, smaller growers were not given the access to proprietary hops. So we began a breeding program. That breeding program started just under 10 years ago, where we made 500,000 seedlings, pollination seedlings. And so these aren't divergents. We actually started with 127 females and 2 males to create these new genetics. And that it takes a multitude of years of studying a plant just to find out if it's going to grow. And so we were looking for plants that would grow really well in the Great Lakes and the Midwest region, and that we could offer to those growers. So Hang'em High Hops is one of those farms that showed interest early in our system around 2017, when we were taking those 500,000 seedlings and getting down to a core base of about 400 plants. And that's where the studies really began to look at what they could do and perform in a hop yard, and then what their aromas, their oils, all the essential oils, how they would read out in first year, second year, third year growth. And then we found farms like Hang'em High that would grow them inside of their hop yards and do a really commercial look at the hop. That also means handling commercial maintenance and the care programs, but also how they harvest. How do they act in a big picker? So all these things had to happen before we could even get into a beer kettle.
Wow.
So that was the front 7 years of the program.
Including $2 million.
Yeah, wow. Right. Very, very much so. If you're looking to make big money, hop propagation's not it. But it is. You know what it is though is there was a passion piece, and so Lynn Kemme, the head botanist here at Great Lakes Hops that started the program, his number one thing was, I want to create great hops that can grow awesome yields for Midwest and local farmers. to give them a competitive advantage to work with breweries right here inside of our state and in the Great Lakes region. I mean, let's be honest, there's great beer all over the U.S. But here in the Midwest, we have long winters, which means there's a lot of time to drink beer. But besides that, we also have amazing farmers, people that know how to row crop and have grown up in families that are multiple generations of farming, including Scott's got lineage in farming, as do many people that are from the West Michigan and the greater Great Lakes area. So knowing that we had a great farming community, a great brewing community, it kind of made sense that this was the time. So we released a group of the 4 hops, which was Paradigm, Gemini, Emerald, Spire, and Bergamot, to just a select group of farmers. And Scott Mast and Hang 'em High Hops were selected to be part of that group. They were given the exclusive opportunity to grow in 2019 and create a commercial quantity that could also be pelletized, and then work together to get us a consistent quality product so that we can then get out into the brew trials and really get these hops out there. It was the brewers themselves, though, that started off inside of our hop yard. So to get to the end user, we actually had to start with them. So you would think that I worked mostly in 2017, 18, 19 with farmers. I actually didn't. I worked with brewers. So they were the ones coming to our trial yard, rubbing the cones, finding these different distinct aroma sets. And then we were sending them in to find out what oils were creating those different aromas. And then we were doing harvest brews to see if that carried through into the beer. If they did, then we had something, and we knew we did. So it was the brewers themselves that helped to take the 400 and figure out what these top 4 were. Then the awesome farms like Hang 'em High Hops came in and said, we'll be willing to dive into the deep end of the pool with you and plant these and see what happens. It's an amazing game of roulette, but it worked out pretty well for Hang 'em High, who selected and helped to pick which cultivar they wanted to trial, and they trialed the Paradigm, the Emerald, Spire, and the Bergamot, which all carried through. So all but the Gemini landed there. Then it just became a matter of getting multiple beers made, as many as possible. And to what you guys said, how do they sit? How do they sit in a can? How do they sit in a growler? How do they sit in a keg? Is there biotransformation that shows apparent, changes in interesting new dynamics to the hop? So the research is never done, and we're always working on it. In fact, right now I've got 4 trial beers going with unnamed hops that we're working on. The newest one we released this last year was Hydra, which hop was 7458-2, which was exclusively grown at Hang 'em High Hops also. And in fact, I'm enjoying a beer that's now commercially distributed with that hop in it, although they still call it befuddlement because they printed the packaging before we physically named it. So these brewers couldn't identify what they wanted to call this hop because it was so unique. They were the ones that said it befuddles us, so we're going to call it befuddlement.
I like that.
And since then, we've named it Hydra. But unfortunately, they made a whole lot of these cans before then. So that's just the way it is. But, here in West Michigan, our local brew scene is amazing. And the West Michigan brew community, including the home brewers, has been fantastic. So where does that lead us now? Fast forward to today. It's you guys. It's the home brewers that are our number one target that we work with here. So I propagate plants, and we work in propagation and sell to farmers. I don't sell pellets. I'm not trying to create beers. But we know that the home brewers are the future customers of these beers. And you're the ones that'll walk into the breweries and say, hey, I'd love a beer that's got Mackinac in it. What is that like? And so that's why we're here today. I think that's the fastest version I can give you of who we are.
That's pretty good, Chris.
Wait,
That's good for you.
that was.
Real quick, you said Mackinac. Now, I'm familiar with Mackinac. I don't know about this Mackinac. No, I'm going into a bar asking for Mackinac and having my inbox full of angry Northerners telling me, you uncultured swine, it's Mackinac, it's French. But I was like, there's no A's and U's and X's, you dummies. How's it French? Right. But anyway, sorry. I had to interrupt there because I meant to have listener feedback to inject where they basically the gist of all these voicemails were, you idiot, here's how you pronounce Mackinac. But Scott, if you want to take it from him, but also too, while you're going, I'm interested as well in the history of hop growing in Michigan altogether. Just pardon my ignorance. It's just when you hear hop growing as a home brewer of, a decade and some change, it's the Pacific Northwest gets all the glory, right? They're the ones who are always focused on when people are talking about hop growing. So has hop growing been native to Michigan, or is there like a resurgence that's now happening in the last insert however many years? Like what's the history of hop growing in Michigan?
There has, and there has across this side of the United States. New York's had an upsurge, and so has Michigan. It used to be a large product that we supplied back in the mid to late 1800s. What happened was we were creating viruses here because we have this really weird temperature change here where we're very, very cold in the winter, and then all of a sudden we balance out. In that summer months, we do fluctuate, but it's pretty consistent. But we have a lot more humidity and less dry air here. So we deal with mildew. It's nothing that can't be cured, but it's stuff that you couldn't handle back in the 1800s. So that really shut down the farms then. And I hear different stories all the time, but I think it was probably 2007 or 8 when someone kicked off the first hop plant here. I think there's 3 or 4 people still holding their hand up that they were the first one. But we were not. We came in 6-7 years after that. And we focused on commodity hops at first. And just like you guys sell, I'm sure you sell the crap out of Cascade and everything else because that is what the recipes were built for. I'm more of a business guy. So yes, I'm a hop grower. Yes, I'm a beer drinker, everything else, but the numbers needed to work. So we processed this information for almost 3 to 4 years and figured out that without the quantity, we couldn't keep our prices down to the point where we could even compete with out West. So back in 2016, when we looked over this program for 2017 planting, we said, this is our only opportunity and have already invested in our full, our full structure, our processing, all the harvest materials, and we needed a product that was saleable. So we couldn't get beaten up. And the worst thing that happens is you're trying to sell a $6 a pound hop, and then out West floods the market with $3 a pound hops.
Yep.
And they're the same hop. So we went this direction, and we've been happy ever since. The plants that these guys provided for Michigan growth, we live in this weird little section, so we got water all the way around us, obviously. But because of that, we get different types of environments, 20 to 30 feet or 30 miles next to the lakeshore. And the same thing happens on the other side. They tailored these hops to grow in this environment, and they're unbelievable. I mean, we go through yards all the time, and these things are twice the size of anything else, and we're producing anywhere from 15 to 2,000 pounds per acre, which is unheard of on a lot of the standardized hops. And then the disease resistance and the stuff that we get to play with here, they react well. And not all of them did. We had 7 different hops in our trial yard, and only 4 of them grew well in our environment. And luckily, those 4 were the ones that got, or 3 were the ones who got chosen. So I always try to explain that to people who want to grow hops. And like you said, James, I tried to grow hops and it didn't work. It's all your soil prep and then what works in your area. There's probably some Neo-Mexicanas that'll grow really well there in Texas. They won't last 25 years, but they'll grow really good. No, Chris is shaking his head.
No, we tried.
Oh, we tried.
I honestly think that indoor grow is where it's going to be in Texas, and you're going to grow hydroponically in a controlled environment where you have complete control over the temperature, the lighting, and then it can be done. And it'll just gas out the plant sooner because what we're seeing is you harvest 3 times a year in Texas. So you literally create a sun cycle. And to what Scott said, we're not only in a perfect weather condition here, but at the 45th parallel, we also have perfect sun. And
it's the length of sun during the day is a big factor, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, and we just don't have that here.
You don't. And it isn't so much the air temp, it's the root temp. So the soil temp of our root system, and that's why we always like nice, sandy, loamy soil. But to what Scott's talking about, in Ludington, Michigan, it can be, where he lives, it could be 90 degrees today, but there's a breeze coming off Lake Michigan that regulates that temperature. And that's what that controlled environment would do too. It would give you moisture to create some sort of control. But we always say water's wetter in the morning, so we like to water heavy in the morning and maybe a couple rounds of it. But in Texas, that's going to evaporate before 10 a.m., right? And that's the one struggle we've been working with in finding that. So even a Neo-Mexicana hop, especially around Austin, Texas.
Hey, I tried.
I mean,
tried.
why don't you just keep making great beer and great music, and we'll be all good, you know?
Yeah, we'll just get the hops from you guys.
Yeah,
When
there
you-
you go.
Yeah, who wants to grow hops in a
Yeah.
greenhouse? That's no fun.
Well, when you start
Right.
talking about hydroponics and growing inside, now the TABC is listening to our show, and they're very
Yeah.
interested in what we're doing. any kind of hydroponic growth that Texas gets.
There's probably people around here could give us pointers.
Yeah, they're totally.
Yeah.
But they're
Yeah,
not
you
growing
might
hops.
have a few. Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
It's a related family, right?
It is. It's a cousin.
A
Yep.
cousin. Yeah.
Cousin and reacts a lot of the same ways. And that really is where you can go hand in hand. I mean, one thing we have learned is if you can farm one thing, you can farm another. So when you can find people that have interest in growing plant material of any sort, it's, you know, if you're a good apple farmer, maybe you're a good cherry farmer too. So now with the regulations all changing and everything like that, that's why we're seeing different ways that people are doing it. And I think even watching vegetables being grown in a vertical fashion, it's interesting, and we're totally watching that too, and seeing what's happening out there.
That's neat.
There's this ride at Disney World, and Todd hates how much I talk about Disney World, so I'll keep it short. I swear, it's called Living with the Land, and it's an agricultural tour. And I swear on my life, it's one of my favorite rides. And I'm not on drugs when I'm doing the ride, but it's just a slow moving boat ride, and it's showing you all the innovations of agriculture and like the future of it. And it blows my mind, like you said, how indoor growth vertically and how much yield they're able to get off of certain vegetables. I'm like, oh, you know,
with a smaller footprint and less pesticides
and
I mean,
aquaponics and all this stuff is just so cool. But
it's very cool. It's
Hey,
very cool.
before Todd, we get into the flavor profiles, if you don't mind.
No, I'm just going to say, I think most of your education comes from Disney, right?
And my world travel. Yes. I go to Epcot and I do that ride, and then I go over to France, and then I'm in Germany, and then I'm in Mexico. It's I'm a cultured person, Mackinac and all. I did want to talk about, before we talked about our taste testing and the flavor profiles of the Hang 'em High hops, I wanted to know, I guess I'll throw it to you, Scott, first. How's the reception been commercially versus retail, like for home brewers? Like, are you seeing, are the commercial breweries picking this up at the same kind of rate you think retail shops are? And then how's the marketing to the retail shops like? Because new stuff, sometimes people get set in their ways, right? They're like, I know this is what I want to use. Like, do you find yourself going, oh, you love IPAs and you love hazy IPAs? Okay, boom, here, try this in your next one. Let us know. Like, but how has the reception been both commercially and at a retail level?
So, and that's a good question. So this is our first commercial year, and we've been growing these and selling these for 3 years, but this is our first commercial. And because of COVID, I decided to, we call it blast advertising.
Yeah.
So I advertised across the United States, and I literally had 2 college kids typing in email addresses for 6 months. So we have around 7,500 breweries in the United States, and we're able to interact with about 6,500 of those every month. And so when we started this off in January, we really looked at how do we want to market this thing? And one of the things we discussed is most of the people, the professional brewers brewing in the larger breweries, were home brewers first. So we started out to see how this advertising would work. And there's 415 homebrew stores in the United States. We advertised to all 415. We picked up about 60 to 65 of them. So that was pretty great.
Yeah.
You know, we're looking at this in 1 month time. We're like, okay, we got these hops in 50 to 60 locations across the United States. We were excited, and they kind of stalled. Nobody knew about them. Nobody was, talking about them unless you're in Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, or Wisconsin. You hadn't seen these things before and you hadn't brewed with them. So then we pulled back from the homebrew side because they needed help. And they wanted, where's your marketing? Where's your information? So we started blast campaigning the entire United States. And truthfully, it has been the best reception that we've ever seen on a new product release. I thought I was going to be concentrating only in this Midwest area. I'm very, very, very happy and proud to say that we are actually on tap in all 50 states. And thank you to Hawaii and Alaska. There's only one brewery in each, but I almost had to give them away. As long as it's on tap, I can say it's 50 states. Yeah. So we see about 3% of the market open to these hops. And that's relatively good. We're a small farm. We're a group of 5 to 6 growers, right around 100 to 110 acres total. And we can bind all our hops and blend them all. So really, we're finishing out our advertising section right now to kind of be done in November because we're spending ungodly amounts of money getting sample packs out and everything else monthly and weekly. So, and then we're turning our focus back to the homebrew side. Now that these things are hitting the market, they're getting advertised. I think I had 5 new beers on Instagram yesterday. If you would have told me 4 months ago I'd have 5 new beers in 5 different states, I would have told you you're ridiculous because it's literally, we're sitting in a barn, in a hop barn, on a computer, running Wi-Fi off my phone, talking to the entire brewery of the United States. And it's been such a receptive thing. So I've been documenting and putting this all into my CRM. And what we're finding, and this is the great part for us, and what the home brewers are finding, is we're climbing up the tap list. So most people are carrying anywhere from 8 to 22 taps. On the regular 1, 2, or 3 brewery, that's how we number them. Mm-hmm. You know, a number 3 is a 3-barrel or less, and then you got 5 to 10, then 10 to 20. And when we look at that, everybody we talk to, because everyone's doing experimental beers. Mm-hmm. So we watch the experimental beer list. They're buying 11 pounds to 44 pounds to do a test beer. And when they do that and they hit the tap, we're seeing it climb to number 1, 2, or 3. Wow. And that is always my first question. Where does this thing land? Wow. And now I'm finding out where they live in their own world. And people are experimenting. We got a guy in Pennsylvania right now doing a coffee orange beer. Just weird stuff all over the place. And I thought these were going to be living in the IPA world. Mm. I really have these in almost everything. And right now, our largest selling commercial beer is either a lager or an IPA made with Emerald Spire. There is more people drinking lagers and IPA or pale ales, around the United States with Emerald Spire than anything else. It's in a baseball stadium down in Louisiana. It's all over the place. And I never thought that hop would live there. It lives there all day long. And I think you called it the lawnmower beer. Yeah. I don't remember which one that was, but you're like, this has the right notes to it. I could drink this all day. That is exactly why they're brewing it that way. So before we get into the flavor profiles, I would say the reception has been wonderful. And now that we're on to the second ordering process, we're seeing that most of the homebrew stores across the United States are now ordering for their second or third time after about a quarter. So after they receive the hops, 3 months in, then they're looking at buying more. So we'll know more October, November, what that market looks like. But we're seeing about 50 to 70% of the 50 to 60 homebrew stores repurchasing after a quarter, which is more all we could ask for. You know, we're not going to make our living selling 1-ouncers to homebrew stores, but we really love the advertising that it gives us because those guys do more advertising than anybody else at all. So we get hundreds of different responses back and forth. And usually it's through you guys. So we always keep our prices higher than anybody who's retailing or reselling these hops to make sure you guys have the open market. And then if anybody comes through our website, I did it last week. I contacted Maine to say, this is your guy's homebrew store. He's buying hops from us. Do you want to carry these hops? So we like you guys carrying those because packing up 1-ounce orders all day is a giant pain. And so we really like the homebrew stores to have that interaction because we don't carry everything, just some specialty hops. But that's why we focus on you guys, the next group of brewers that own restaurants.
And to caveat that, you know, we've been pursuing every size of brewery all along. And to answer your question about commercial brewers, the toughest thing we ran into is consistency and quantity. And when you're building a brand new, smaller market brand like we're trying to build, and we're doing it in a grassroots way, a large brewery just can't afford to take that kind of risk because they also can't purchase the kind of poundage they need to get to have that consistent brew. So the other part to that is it's a double-edged sword, is that a lot of the most successful breweries, they signed contracts that they're committed to buying large amounts of hops from other entities outside of their own backyard. Mm-hmm. Sure. So it's really this marketing plan that 2020 really helped us to catapult. This is exactly the time to tap into home brewers, brand new brew shops, people that aren't locked into contracts, the brew community that's not just out there making beer, but enjoying beer. And let's be honest, it's up to the consumer to demand local product. And we talked a little bit ago about agriculture. You know, one of the greatest trends in agriculture is one of the oldest trends in agriculture is farm to table.
Mm-hmm.
And over COVID, we saw breweries that are now succeeding better than they've ever succeeded at brewing beer because their local community dove into local, right? They said, we're gonna buy local beer, we're gonna buy local food, we're gonna buy local groceries. That's what we're gonna do. Now the consumer's got to say, what about the product that's going into the beer? And that's going to include things like hops. Are these hops that are shipped in from New Zealand or Europe or the Pacific Northwest, or is this a hop that's grown right outside of Texas? Because, you know, even though we can't grow great hops in Texas yet, we sure can in Colorado and the Four Corners.
Right.
You know? So, and that's local. That's local, more local than just buying them from anywhere on, you know, a computer. So that's our shtick there, but it definitely is a slow go. Because we're not some large entity that's out there pumping millions of dollars into marketing. All of our money has been invested into the breeding program and into getting out to these breweries and working with the brewers to find out which hops are what. So it's going to be the brew community that's going to help us market these. And Scott, you know, bless Hang 'em High Hops for being willing to work with all layers, from the small brew shops all the way up to the largest breweries. And I think a lot of growers haven't been willing to have that big of a brushstroke.
Well, I think it's good because that if you introduce the hop to a lot of different people, they're not only going to brew with it, but they're also going to ask for it when they're getting a beer in their local pub. And I think you see that across the board. Well, I'd love for you to talk about the different hops and kind of give some people that are listening an idea of what you would brew with them and how you would brew with them and what you think the best use would be.
Sure. I'm going to take a handful of these and I'm going to give Chris a handful because I'm going to do the ones that I know really, really well.
Perfect.
If that's fair. So I'll be honest with you. I was not a brewer prior to, and I've never actually, other than brewing a beer at a commercial brewery, I've never brewed at home. So I have, I'm going to be honest, everything I learn is from other breweries around the United States who are brewing our beer. And I listen and I write stuff down and I listen to Chris for an hour and a half talking beer. And I take all this in and I'm finally, after 3 years, to a point where I feel comfortable having the conversations. And now that I've put hops in the kettle and I've been brewing with these commercial breweries, because I ask them, can I come in and brew with you guys? Yeah. They're like, yeah, come on in. It's relatively simple, and it's a little bit boring when you're sitting there watching the clock all day.
I bet they made you clean while you were there, didn't they?
No, we actually drank a lot. So that's what we did. Don't invite me to brew beer at 7 a.m. if I'm not going to bring 12-pack of all different beers we got to taste while we're doing it. No, that's my day off, and I don't get many.
My man, that's right.
So I'm going to start out with Hydra.
Okay.
Which Chris said was a new release for 2020. And that was a new release. And unfortunately, we didn't have time due to COVID to ramp that one up. So our goal here at Hang 'em High Hops and the group of growers with Great Lakes Growers Group is we want 10 to 15,000 pounds of each one of the varieties. So we typically got a year to say, okay, this one's going to release. Unfortunately, Hydra released in I think October of last year, right at harvest. So we didn't know if this one was going to release or stay private. And then it released late fall, put it that way. And so we got this one to market and they ate it up. We have around 40 to 50 breweries around the United States who've brewed with it. And that's really not the issue. It's the commercial breweries that have been brewing with it for the last 3 years have eaten up quantity like you would not believe. They want it across the board. The one he's drinking right now, that's one of our biggest customers. So we ramped up this year, and it's city built, but this one's been brewed all over the place, down in Florida, Texas, California. So they call it befuddlement. And so what I tell people when they're brewing Hydra is Hydra does run hot. So when they're putting it in the whirlpool, we always give them a percentage or ratio. So typically when I'm dealing with a lot of the other hops, it's a 30-70 or a 40-60 percentage wise when I'm dealing with the whirlpool or flame out, and then you put it into the dry hop side. It's completely backwards with Hydra. So Hydra can go, if it's getting ran by itself, it goes fine into that end side, but it does run hot. So they like to actually tailor that one back a little bit on the final ad. So, and the reason for that is because this one is very, very high in myrcene, and it has a couple other things in here that work incredibly well with all other hops. So the unique flavors with this one, and the reason this one sticks out is you can't tell exactly what you're drinking as you're drinking it. And the flavors in the front of your tongue versus the back of your tongue are different. And then as you drink through the beer, it changes. And this is the only hop that we have that's like this. There's not another one out there. And so Hydra really, at the end of the day, it mixes well and enhances all the flavors that you add to it, whether you're using special grain, whether you're using another hop for bittering, if you're using adjuncts or whatnot. This blends with it and then enhances that flavor. And then it does its own little thing. That's why we call it befuddlement. It changes the way your taste buds work as you're drinking through the beer. And I don't think I sent any beers down to you guys, but I will send some commercial beers down to you guys. I think we have 3 straight Hydra beers right now commercially that you'll drink through them and then you'll try them a week later and it'll be different.
No,
it's not a bad different.
I can definitely attest to that, because when we first brewed it and tried it, we were like, there's something wrong here. And I tried it last night because I knew we were doing this podcast, and I've tried it pretty much every week since we brewed it. And the taste of it has changed dramatically. The beer that we brewed is excellent. It's a really good beer. And like I said, the first time we tried it, we had a weird wang to it and we weren't sure what it was. We actually thought we might've had an issue with it, but once it
was that Hydra or Gemini that you did that with?
Hydra.
I couldn't remember. Was it
Hydra? Uh-huh. Yeah, and it's really it's changed quite a bit. It's really mellowed out. It's a really nice beer.
Yeah, it's that oil set that Scott's talking about, and Hydra brings just the right combination. We actually say that it's got a superpower that allows it to magnify whatever it's with, but it does take that biotransformation period. And also it's that sediment in the keg after you carbonate, that because of that oil set, high myrcene, geranol, lilinol, they're going to take a second to create that aroma and flavor profile. In fact, a lot of our hops, we request to get tastings of it after it's sat in a keg for at least a week or two before we get a pull off of it. Because I don't want that first vegetal pull.
Well, come on, it's funny. This was perfect timing. This is Joe. Joe brewed a Hydra, and I asked him to bring me it. So this was from a different keg.
And we're thinking we think somehow maybe this keg got a little oxygenated somehow.
But it's a very different taste now than it was when we tried it.
Yeah,
a month ago.
Right.
Very, very different. So anyway, that
is befuddlement.
That is befuddlement. I'm 100 something miles away. Can Joe bring me one? I don't know if he's able to.
I could ask him, but I'm sure he would.
And one of my favorite beers is Hydra and Amarillo together.
Okay.
That would work good.
That's one of my favorite beers right now. That's out there.
What if we mixed? That would be interesting to actually mix 2 beers together, one that has Hydra and one that has one of the other ones. I might try that tonight and see if I can see how it might enhance that. I have to fly out tomorrow, so I probably shouldn't do all 7, but I could try.
Well, and also real quick to interrupt Todd, he's like 3 gallons into these 5 gallons. You're not trying anymore. Like he's acting like he's an inquisitive mind. Like I'm going to try one tonight. You know what they taste like. That's just what alcoholics say. When I'm just going to.
I'm amazed at how much they've changed, though. There is a lot of change, and a lot of beers are better to me after they've been sitting for a month. Not just with these hops, but other beers. I mean, we've seen that several times, James and Josh. When we brewed a Kolsch and we finish it, and we're like, it's okay, but it's not the best we've ever brewed. And then a month later, you're like, well, this is fantastic.
So real quick before you wrap up befuddlement or Hydra, Scott, and go on to your next one, would you say that the propensity for it to be to change over time makes it more difficult to have a consistent batch over and over, or is it pretty predictable in regards to if you use it with this adjunct or whatever, it does this progression? I don't know if that question made sense.
It does. And I ask those questions when I'm at the brewers. because some of our big guys, it's on Meijer's shelf and stuff like that, and Walmart. So I ask them, do you see this interaction or whatnot? And they're like, we don't see it.
Awesome.
And I said, well, I'm getting it from, other brewers, whatnot. They said it sells so fast. What does it matter? And I'm like, oh, okay. So you don't have stuff sitting on the shelf. I'm like, all right, that's fair. That's fair. But they have a unique process there where they actually do a hazy IPA with it, and they can keg it off, and it's quick. And I don't know how they do it, and they're not telling. But they're able to control Hydra, and a lot of people are. Our 7 biggest commercial brewers with Hydra, they're able to control it because they know how to use it. They know what they're doing with it. But on the homebrew side, you're going to have some fun because it gives you something completely different that you can do exactly what all 3 of you did. Well, I get this, but it tastes different. And what's this? And then you drink half of it. You're like, well, now it tastes different. It's just the hop, and I can't explain it.
It is, but you will notice a keg, obviously, where it's feeding from the bottom. And we know that the chemistry of what's going to happen as a keg settles, the bittering will mellow out. It'll taste very different in the keg as it travels through when you have a high oil hop that's been introduced, especially when it's post-fermentation, when you're doing a dry hopping. But then in cans, I haven't noticed any difference to what Scott's talking about. I made sure I did my tests like Todd, and I bought a whole case of those hydrogen.
Absolutely.
I drank one every day for the sake of science.
That's
just
right.
to see if it would change.
We're scientists.
If anything, I would say when I hit day number 24, can number 24, the bittering really fell off on it than what was in the one that literally they gave me this case right off the line. If we're talking about Big Lake Brewing and the Hydra Haze that they brewed. And I wanted it. I wanted it right off the line. They literally, and a lot of our breweries here in Michigan, that's what they're moving to anyways. It makes good financial sense to brew to order. So they're literally brewing, packaging, and shipping in a very fast, streamlined way instead of leaving it sitting inside of their coolers because they don't want to waste shelf life time sitting in their own cooler. So
it's funny you mentioned that. I went to a local brewery a few weeks ago, and they had a hazy IPA. I tried basically all their beers, but I got their hazy IPA, and I got it, and it was just as clear as it could be. I mean, just crystal clear. And the owner walked by, and I go, your hazy is a little clear. And he went, oh, crap. And what it was is they had kegged it, and the first half, 3/4 of the keg, it was a hazy, and then the last quarter, it was totally clear. Yep. So because everything settled down and it pulled from the bottom. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, on a hazy, on some hazies, it almost makes sense that you'd want to agitate,
right?
Daily, but we're not into adjunct beers here. Like we're trying to give hops to brewers that don't need puree in them. And also, I'd say to that brewer, let's get away from the lactose and go to the oats.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Amen, brother.
Amen. I had to go to the group view to show James because he was doing the whole man. My man. All right, so we got Hydra down. Scott, or do you want? I don't know how. If you want to keep going with the ones you know.
Yeah, I'll keep going. Cool. I'll keep going. I'll try to keep it quick. So Hydra is no longer available. I was actually happy to see your video at saying, well, I don't know if this one's really my favorite because I'm like, thank goodness. We had such a problem keeping that one available that people were buying 1-pounders off the website at 22 pounds at a time. So we had to pull everything from the website except for 1-ounces, and we sold out of our total quantity except for homebrew stores on July 6th.
Wow.
So you actually might have helped us out there by just saying, I don't really know. It's not that great.
That's not what I said.
I feel so bad talking to people and saying I don't have any more because we just planted, I think 5 or 6 more acres of this year.
Wow.
And it's just, the quantity's coming. It's coming. So Emerald Spire is the next one. We call this our light hop. And Emerald Spire Light, that's what we always tell everyone. I believe this lives in the lager, the pale ale world. And this is the white grape, white wine dry. We have several breweries that are actually double carbonating, and they're brewing it differently. And I'm not going to try to explain what they're doing, but they're brewing it like a wine, and they're creating almost a white wine and serving it in wine glasses, which for the beer guy, I didn't think that would be that incredible. But for the other 3 people that the beer guy took to the restaurant, and you got 2 ladies there that love wine or not big beer drinkers, they are drinking this unbelievably all the time. So white grape, white wine is Emerald Spire all day long. I did just get my first, I think it's a single IPA out of Massachusetts with Emerald Spire. And then I have one down in Byron Center, which is really good. That hit his number 2 tap out of 13 just in a week. The guy in Massachusetts said, I sold 60 cases in a week. And that might not sound like a lot. That's the most I've ever sold in 1 week.
Oh, wow.
For a single beer. So we were excited about that. So I have a comfort feeling with that. People have brewed. If you guys have a group out there that like the lawnmower beer or a lager they can drink all day that gives you just the right sweetness at the end, you can sell it all day long.
I think that's the one that I really tasted the peach in, right?
I don't think so.
I don't think it was.
No?
I think no.
Which one was it that I could really taste a peach in as well?
There is peach, one of the most common terms used for Emerald Spire, but it's a very delicate hop. And we actually, the number one term used, and so we have had over 120 breweries sit down with us and do these sensories, was juicy fruit. So it's like a juicy fruit gum, or even the juices inside of a fruit cup, those delicate little syrups that are left over. So when Scott talks about grapes, grape in the field, wild grape, we're excited to see that there's a surgence of sessions and pilsners, kolsches. That's exactly what I'd love to see. This kind of brute type champagne-y hop used in it. And our goal was to release hops that can give you the full spectrum, not just, hey, we've got a new Citra and here's something just like Mosaic. We just don't do that. That's not what we're doing. And Scott's a good, if he was a betting man, and I don't think his wife would let him, but if he was a betting man, he saw it early in the beginning too. I remember him and I talking a lot about Emerald Spire. If we could just be patient on her, that the brewing community will catch up to the hop. And like he said, there's too many other beer drinkers out there that don't need big, bittery, danky, skunky, tropical hops.
Amen.
Not everybody wants that. I still like.
I don't want to taste it for 3 hours after.
Yeah, I want to scrape it off my tongue. That's what I want.
I was a little sloshed at the end of that night, and I didn't go back and watch the video. I just published it. I mean, edit it. But I'm pretty sure, I'm like 95% sure Emerald Spire was the one that I said I could drink all day. Like the way that James, you brewed that one. I'm pretty sure. And
it was one of the last ones I brewed.
And
you said the Emerald Spire and the Michigan Copper was one of your favorites.
I remember the Michigan Copper.
That's the one that you called the lawnmower.
Okay, there we go. I would say Michigan Copper was the first one we drank that night. And the Emerald Spire, I think I said, and it was a compliment. I said, not a whole lot going on in regards to, like, sometimes hops are overwhelming. And that, for me, for a beer, I want to enjoy.
You're completely right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. There is not a lot going on, but what's going on is perfectly balanced to what you want to drink 6 of.
Right.
And that's what we find. All of a sudden I can drink 6 of one thing, then I'm happy. Right. If I can only drink one and then I'm, coughing that up for the next 2 hours, I don't appreciate that most of the time. Oh, Chris, is that too much? So we'll bring you right into the heavy hoppy one then.
Yes.
So Paradigm, I call that my heavy hoppy
my favorite
hop. So that's the hop man's hop right there. So, and I don't know if I should say this or not, but when I drink it, everywhere I drink it, whether it's a single, a double, no matter how they brew this thing, I get all day IPA. That's the background, the whatnot. And I don't know what hops they put in all day IPA, which is all over the United States, obviously. But Paradigm brews that so well. And now we're seeing people play with it on the tail end more delicately and getting the peach and the pear out of it, which originally when this was like a heavy, hazy or a double or a triple IPA, I never got that peach and pear, but they're balancing it down and they're bringing it into a single IPA, and I can get that peach and pear clean now, but it's still a heavy hop, back of your throat. I call it the beer guy's beer. So that is Paradigm to us.
That's what I had last night when I was sitting watching with some TV with my wife. I had a 16-ounce Paradigm, and it was very good. Really, really enjoyed it. But I like heavier hops. James doesn't, so I'm surprised. That's one of his favorite hops in it. So
we on all of our beers that we did with this hop test, we did 3 additions. So we did, I want to say we did a 5 or a 15, and then a flame out, and then we did a 180 whirlpool every single hop. So our base bittering hops were all Magnum. We wanted to see the flavor and aroma of these hops. So that's why we did it the way we did it. And
Yep.
I like the way this smelled and tasted. But I'm definitely going to have to do the Emerald Spire in a light lager and see how that works.
Yeah. I think I have them in lagers. I have them in pails. I have them in Indian pale ales. I have them in like 5 or 6 different light beer. Thanks, Chris. He's just laughing at me. I'm the farmer, so I just keep working.
Yeah.
These guys are brew connoisseurs. I get it.
Pretty much scientists, like you said earlier, Chris.
Yeah.
Well,
Just laughing at me. I'm going to have a call after this. I guarantee it.
no, you're good. This is why you need me. You keep me employed. Thank you. James and Todd, I appreciate the attention to Paradigm. We named it accordingly. It's not a hop that can be compared to anything else in the market. It's great for our growers too. This thing grows like no other, and it produces amazing cones, amazing yields. It's a fun hop to grow. It's showy. It shows amazing, but it is that herbal stone fruit melon thing. And so, James, I'm going to be safe to say you probably have some traditional hop in your ideas that you would normally like Hallertau, Sazers.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's
In
why
fact,
you like Paradigm, because I'm not going to give away her lineage, but you're barking up the right tree.
He brews with a lot. He brews with a lot of noble hops. So
we took a noble hop and we juiced it, heavy.
Yeah.
They did juice it heavy. We're talking 2,000 to 2,500 pounds per acre on a second year plant.
Yeah, she's a beast. And the problem we had was that she came out of the gate screaming, and we knew as marketers, as people from a corporate background, we knew that it actually can be a curse to come out a little too fast, a little too heavy. And so Paradigm was everybody's honey. Everybody wanted to talk to that girl at the party. But then all of a sudden we brought more to the party, and and now it's confusing. So we really hope Paradigm has an amazing 2021-22 because this is the hop that should be the game changer for proprietary hops and small hop growers. Like, there's nothing on the market like it. It is absolutely unique. And she can enhance and play with any hop. But what we are most proud of is some of my most respected hops I've ever, brewed with myself as a brewer have been the big ones like Mosaic, El Dorado, Amarillo. Mm-hmm. She's been in kettles with each of those and outshined them, and that said a lot to us.
Yeah.
If you can outshine Mosaic, you're pretty big.
That's what I was just about to say.
Mosaic.
I love Mosaic.
I do too.
I do too.
Yeah, me too.
Brew some Mosaic and some Paradigm together, and you're going to watch a lot of that dirty sock funkiness of Mosaic will get washed out by the bright melon and candy of Paradigm. And I think, James, it's that candy, that hard rock candy that kind of sits in the undertone and like muskmelon. That's where you get those noble characteristics. I think a lot of people think that noble is all herbal and floral, but they don't realize it's like white fleshy fruit. It's that nice white. Yeah. So we're speaking the same language. Go Paradigm.
Absolutely.
Let's that Paradigm, guys.
Well, I'm going to hit my last one here. We got bergamot.
Imagine that.
Yeah, weird. So bergamot is really an easy sell for us because everybody can brew it. Everybody knows how to brew it. It's really, you can mix this with anything that you're already brewing, and you're going to get big orange across the board. So we've used this one. If people are nervous about using new hops and they want to throw something in there that they want to see how it acts or put it on the tap list just to test us out, we always push them with bergamot first. Bergamot or Paradigm, they're going to come up, and I ask them, do you want a big juicy, or do you want a hoppy beer? And if they say, I want a big, juicy IPA, I said, you can run bergamot all day long, use your favorite hops with it if you want to, or just singly by itself. Bergamot is our number 2 of a commercial, which it's in several commercial beers on the shelf. And this one brews well, but it gives you that big orange. And that's why they named it Oath. So yeah, there's really not a bunch of other things that are going on with bergamot. I've drank it in 7 or 8 different styles of beer, and you get that big juicy orange flavor. So it's really popular in the summer. It's popular now. They're putting in coffee beers. They're using it all over the place. We did have some people trial out to try to say, you don't need to sit there and pull the rind off from oranges all day. Use this hop. And we are finding the same balance there. Instead of getting bushels of oranges in and spending all day doing that, you can use this hop and you're getting the same result.
Wow.
So we love this one. It's our princess. It's our delicate one in the field. And the fun one about this one is it sits in the field for 5 to 6 weeks at full cone. So this one really has a very odd, it's one of our oiliest ones, especially in the drying unit. We will look at this thing, and we've watched it now. This is our 5th year monitoring this thing, and it will get full cone just like everything else, and then it just sits. And the alpha and the beta actually will be twice as high as the alpha for about 3 weeks, and it just sits there. It doesn't get any bigger. It doesn't change color. It's just bright green. And then all of a sudden in 1 week, it'll balance out to hit itself, and then it'll be completely even for a week, and then the oils just push through. So this is our princess in the field, or our lady. She sits and waits and produces oil after oil, and she just doesn't do anything. So we actually don't harvest this until the last week of September or the first week of October, which is really dangerous for us here in Michigan with the frost and whatnot.
Yeah,
we've been successful across the board, but this one's it's right at starting cone stage now, and so yeah, we'll be looking at harvesting it pretty much October 1. So it's got 4 weeks yet of sitting there in cone stage. So this one's really cool.
We actually, on this one, on my 7-tap kegerator at home, this is one of the 2 that's out. This one's out, and the Michigan Copper one's out. So people really, really like that with this particular recipe for whatever reason, you know.
My wife calls it the Manmosa hop because
that works.
It just makes Manmosas for days.
I like that.
Yeah.
Manmosa.
I like that too. That's a good one. I'm going to use that now, Chris. It's getting written down.
Oh, you'll mess that up. I'm sure.
I will, specifically. Yeah.
Well, let's use that to segue to Chris about Michigan Copper, because that did end up being
perfect.
One of
That's the first one that ran out. Yeah,
and that was my favorite. So, Chris, what do you have? What info can you give us on Michigan Copper?
I'll get right there to it. You know, honestly, Copper and Mackinac and Michigan Copper were the 2 hops that we used to introduce the idea of Midwest proprietary. So they're not technically in our proprietary lineup. We call them select hops. So what they are is a field
Chris.
We lost Chris.
Chris's internet.
He's frozen.
Look, I was trying to.
Look, what a great look, though, huh?
There he is.
Am I back?
You're back.
Yeah.
You're back. It keeps going in and out, though. Look, he keeps.
Yeah, Scott, we might have to have you describe it more.
Oh,
well, he's worked a lot with this hop with several large breweries out of the Chicago area and everywhere else. So I would like him to present this one because
he's getting there. It's just the internet, when you need it to be reliable, craps out. I mean, that's my experience with technology. You're good so far.
Am I there?
Yeah, you're there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Run it, Chris, as fast as you can.
Go. Stop it.
No. For the people that are actually just listening, right when he said running as fast as you can, he took a big breath and was about to speak and froze up on the screen.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That was beautiful.
All right, so we had a little bit of technical difficulties, but Chris is back. The internet, we're gonna fingers crossed see how long it lasts this time. I kicked everyone else off the feed. No, it's actually the day after. But Chris, man, the Zoom, I will blame Zoom. It wasn't your. Yeah, I think on text you were like, "That's farm life, man." I forget where y'all are at. It's not like some a sprawling metropolis with 5G towers everywhere. It's like
you know that's absolutely true, and we looked at everything on our end, and it just seems to be something with the internet companies. I mean, it seems like it's 2021, and you should be able to communicate with somebody from the moon, but
right.
You know, it is what it is, but that's kind of a blessing and a curse at times when you just can't take that call or get on the internet because you're in the field.
Yeah, when Todd calls me, I frequently go and whatever. But we're gonna see if it works right now for you. So we were doing flavor profiles is where I'm injecting this into the show, and we're gonna go over. You're gonna have Mackinac, my favorite, and Michigan Copper, and I think Gemini. So whichever one you want to start with, go for it.
Awesome. I'd look at Michigan Copper. Michigan Copper and Mackinac both started off in our system as part of our trials when we were looking for the dominant females to be in our breeding program. Both of them came back to us genetically as truly unique. which means that they're part of a genetic divergent that can occur from field pollination. Michigan Copper is absolutely, in my mind, the super utility hop. That hop gives you floral, tropical, fruit punch, cherry. And when I say fruit punch, I literally mean like a high C fruit punch type aroma and flavor. But the thing is that because she's got these really nice, even alphas and betas, she works really well in the front end of the boil. She could be a bittering hop. She can be a pairing hop. She can even be a solo hop. And we're really, really excited about it. And Michigan Copper's been in the market for long enough now that she's starting to get attention in places like Norway and China. And we've got brews happening all over the world with her. A lot of people take the front end word off of Michigan and they just call it copper. It's still trademarked as Michigan Copper, but we're excited just to see copper grow inside of the market. Again, that's that hop that we're excited about the lagering world that we're all really getting excited to take a step into. It's not a step forward or a step back. It's kind of a lateral move where it's traditional beer. And me personally, I love ambers and nice red fruit, stone fruit type flavors that are hanging out inside of those beers. But we are kind of, everybody's excited about the big orangey and the big tropical right now. And like any trend, you got to have that hop that can just really. We losing me again?
Well, you're back.
All right, we'll keep rolling. That brings us to Mackinac. And Mackinac is a big tropical citrus, melon, papaya, spice hop. She will do everything from a New England IPA to a West Coasty. Now, we say in Michigan, we've got our own kind of IPA that's going to be a citrus piney, kind of a resinous. The most popular beer in Michigan is the Two Hearted from Bell's, which is a very popular beer in America. And that's kind of a Midwest IPA. She can do all of those and then some. It has everything to do with that papaya, melon, and tropical combination. And when we say tropical, it's not just tropical fruits. It's hibiscus. It's those herbal notes. But she and copper are related and have genetic connections, which helps them to work really well together. So Mac and Copper, they're kind of our flagship hops that we put out there. Anybody can publicly grow them. It's just a non-propagation agreement to work with us. And they're the ones that we use as how to get our farms actually vetted into our farming group with the rest of the proprietaries. Those are the kind of the intro to what we do.
Interesting. It's funny. Before you get to Gemini, and hopefully you don't freeze up on me because I'm trying to give you as much time as possible to talk. Those two ended up. It's funny that they're genetically related, not just from being hops, but because those were my favorite. We did that pale ale based recipe. Those both were the most. What I just called mellow, right? Like they're very crushable, very very mellow, and I could see being able to get a lot more out of it. Like you said, utilitarian. That copper. That ended up being one of the ones I drank the most off of Todd's teaser. I mean, to be fair, I drink everything because that's what I do when I'm over there. But anyways, wrapping it up, Gemini was the I say, wait, no, did you have one more or two more to do?
Scott did Paradigm, Hydra, Emerald, Spire, and Bergamot, and then that left Mac, Copper, and Gemini, and then we have a new one that we'll be releasing this fall. So I can talk about that too.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, start with Gemini, and then we'll talk into the new one.
You betcha. So Gemini is a hop that we put out there. And when we say we wanted to release a portfolio of hops, we're not just replicating what's already been done. So we were looking for unique and diverse hops. This one to us really resembles what's happening in like, say, New Zealand, Australia hops, where she gives you honeydew, strawberry, rosemary, nice fruit kind of cocktail thing. But she also has these hints of like mint, eucalyptus, And when working together, her oils become very unique because we have some brewers that have been able to use her in the front end of a boil and really extract some of that geranol and that musky kind of perfumey aroma and flavor. And so when she does that thing with her honeydew, strawberry, eucalyptus, but then she can be front end boiled, those beers that traditionally have that kind of funkier note. And it's not to be called what the cannabis world wants to call dank, but it's kind of that unique aroma, almost like as fruit begins to ferment and turn, it gives us some of those boozier kind of aromas and flavors. We know that with sour beers and brutes and brut IPAs, Goses, so many of those beers.
Well, I like the fact that Chris is now frozen with a beer up in
Drinking.
So I am almost thinking that maybe his internet thing was self-induced, so he could just drink beer.
He made
You
him
ever
leave.
think that this is what we do for a living?
Yeah.
Do you ever think
Yeah.
about that on a weekly basis?
Yeah,
Like, this is it.
absolutely.
This is what we do.
We're blessed.
Well, that was very good, very interesting.
I do.
Josh,
Yeah, Scott. We do appreciate y'all's time. And Chris rejoined us. I'll edit some of this stuff out. Some of it, we keep in. Some people accuse me of being lazy, and that's why I don't edit everything out. But it adds charm. I think this is episode 243, and we had like a 14-month layoff at one point. So we've been doing this for like 6 years, and I think the only reason we have dozens of listeners is because we have
Dozens of listeners.
tens of people have
Don't
been
tell them that. They won't give us any more hops.
tens of people have been served, and I think it's the organic part that people like. Where the lack of polishedness, because we frequently, most episodes, I'll say something stupid, and then I'll also make the comment like, I'm gonna edit that out so I don't look stupid, but then it ends up in the show because again, I'm lazy.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I just want to say one more thing. We really had a good time brewing these 7 recipes, primarily because I got sick and I had to have James brew them all. All I've done is really drink them. So it was a great experience. And
Josh brewed on a Herm system.
I know. He brewed one, and it was his first time on a Herm system. And Joe brewed one, and then James brewed the other 5. And I did absolutely nothing but drink beer, which I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate what you guys did. Stuff like this helps us out in the small market, and with smaller advertising budgets, stuff like this really increases our interactions with customers, especially with the people that are following you guys. So it's been a help for us. It really has. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah, of course. Well, we appreciate your time, and when also the absent Chris Vogel now, we appreciate his time. Thanks for doing it. We'll have to do more. It was well received, the tasting episode we did, and so I think it would be nice.
That was fun to do.
It was fun to do, and Scott, I think it'd be nice if we did more videos with other style instead of one base recipe. If we do a video on, hey, I brewed this. Like James, I brewed a light American lager and I used Paradigm, and here's how it turned out. Like something like that would be.
Yeah, well
I'm going to use that on a recipe.
Or Emerald Spire. Pardon me, not Paradigm. I meant Emerald Spire. That's totally.
Let's make a goal to do a recipe recap episode with another one of these hops in a different style beer.
Perfect. Yeah. I love it.
Well, we have next time we get sent down to you guys, I'll send you down a 4, 6, or 12 pack of whatever we got here, so you can taste through the different ones. And just to see what's out in the market and see what's, who's brewing what. Because there's some weird stuff. There's a lemongrass one right now I can't stop drinking for some reason. It's bergamot lemongrass. It is good. It is perfect right now when it's hot and I'm sweating my butt off all day.
We're king of
I'll also send you down. We'll have some new, unique stuff out. So yeah, we'll send stuff down to you. You guys can go through it. And then we're doing I think there's 500 homebrewers right now that are doing a contest in Michigan. And then I think there's like 250 or 300 doing one in Florida that we sponsored. And then you guys have two different homebrew groups that are interested in brewing in Texas that have contacted me.
Awesome.
So anyway, we'll get some of those samples in too, and we'll see what these guys have come up with. Because usually I find great beers on the homebrew side that really knock my socks off. And because they're not concentrated on putting something on Walmart's shelf, they can have a little more fun with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So,
well, again, we appreciate your time, and thank you for doing the show, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
All right. Back to work. Have a great day.
Take care.
Thanks.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. Or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. If you're wanting to take your brewing to the next level, go check out the sweet new Herm system available now at browtod.com, or go directly to kegconnection.com/browtod and take advantage of the incredible introductory offer going on for a limited time. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.